Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be a lengthy one because I actually did a lot better than I thought I did. This is going to be our February and March wrap up. I read quite a few books in February. I was really motivated, really wanted to pre-film, really just wanted to get things done. And then unfortunately March hit and I was in the biggest slump. Not only a reading slump, but a life slump. So most of my reading in today's video is going to have been in February because March was okay. I did read, but not as much as I intended to. And my pre-filming just went out the window. So please bear with me. This is going to be a little chaotic. First of all, we all know I like to talk loads and in circles. I'm going to do the best I can, so please bear with. A lot of the books I did do audio, so I also dabbled in a little bit of immersive reading, so listening to the book while I was reading and following along on the pages, but a lot of them were audiobooks when I just was not in the mood to actually pick up a book. Let's go ahead and get started. Just some stats. I haven't worked all of them out now because I've been so busy with wedding stuff. I know you guys are probably sick of hearing it, but April is now like my wedding month, so I've had to prep and get everything ready for this month. I have only today to film this before my fiance arrives tomorrow, and the rest of April, obviously until our wedding day, is going to be super busy. So this was the only time I could do it. I didn't fully prep, I'm not gonna lie. So just like I said, bear with me. And also please do give this video a thumbs up if you like it. I will really appreciate it. If you're new here as well, like hi, I'm Zanine. I have both a book channel and a makeup channel. You can go check me out there if you want to. I'll link the channel down in the description bar if you would like to see. But let's get into stats. So for the month of February, I read 11 books and I DNF'd one, and I read a whopping 4,968 pages, loads. So the rest of the stats I will put up on the screen, like all the genres and the medium of reading as well. So that will come and I'll pop that on the screen. So let's start with it was actually the last book I read in January leading into February. So that was a long time ago, but I did make some notes, so I'm going to just recite them. Like I said, the last book I read, or the first book in Feb I read, was The Fine Print by Lauren Asher, and this I gave a 4-star to. I really did enjoy it. It was so good. I didn't love the smart. I was thinking to myself, maybe I'm becoming prudish, but I just don't think that unsolicited and unwarranted smut makes a book good. Like, I used to love it, but now I prefer plot and with a little bit of smut mixed in. But for me, the smut just wasn't great. I was skipping entire chapters with smut in it. But this follows Rowan and Zara. Rowan is a billionaire. Zara is one of his employees, and in order to get his inheritance, he needs to like come up with this big project, and Zara ends up helping him, and they end up getting the money. It is Grumpy Sunshine. He's the grumpy, she's the sunshine, and it was good. I really liked it besides the smart. I just wanted to say as well, I forgot to say this, that most of these books have videos, so if you want to know all my thoughts, please go check them out, and they're all obviously available on my channel. But the next book I read was Phantasma by Kaylee Smith, and I liked it. I really did like it. Again, the smut was an issue for me. I don't know what's happening to me, honestly I don't, but the smut was just out of place. Like, I wanted to know what was going on in the like games and stuff like that, rather than so much smut. This follows Ophelia and Genevieve. They are sisters. Within the first chapter, their mother passes away and they're having money problems. There's magic involved. So one day they wake up and their mother is passed in the house, but she was like a witch, I want to say. I don't know. She's a necromancer. She's a necromancer, and in order for the family traditions to carry on, she needs to perform a seance while her mom is still in the in-between. So she does perform this seance and she takes over her mom's role as the village necromancer. Through all of this, they find out that they're in financial hardships and their mother hadn't told them anything, and their house is about to be repossessed. One morning, Ophelia wakes up and her sister Genevieve is missing, and she goes goes through her room and finds out that she potentially went to Phantasma. And Phantasma is kind of frowned upon because it's a lot of like devils and demons and ghouls, and it's just frowned upon, obviously, because of the nature of the games. So Ophelia follows her in and she joins the games as well, but she cannot see her sister or actually confirm that her sister's there until she reaches a certain level of the games. And the games are kind of centered around the 9 circles of hell. So each level will emulate that circle of hell, and they'll have to do a challenge based on that. But it was really interesting. There's ghosts, ghouls, all of that. The hauntings are really interesting. I really liked the concept of it, but just again, the smut was a little bit like out of place for me. I didn't feel like it was completely necessary, and also to that volume. But I did ultimately really enjoy the ride it took me on. I just would have liked more description of the games and the other players, and yeah, I really did like it though, and ended up giving it a 4-star. The next book I picked up was Listen for the Lie by Amy Tentera. This book was great. I know a lot of people only liked like the audio version of it because it is like in a podcast format, but I read it physically and I really enjoyed it. And this follows our main female character, I was gonna say Amy, but her name is Lucy Chase, and she's been accused of murdering her best friend, and she's kind of shunned for this. So she ends up leaving her city and moving away because of all these things, but there was no proof that she actually did it, and she also has amnesia after being hit over the head that night as well. But they find her in the middle of the street, like just aimlessly walking, covered in blood, and yeah, her best friend is found murdered. This podcaster who does true crime comes into her town and he's investigating her case. And her granny, she's so funny, organizes for him to meet with her, but at her granny's like 80th birthday or something like that. So it's kind of just them going through the investigation of trying to figure out if she really did it. She doesn't know who believes her. The town have shunned her. Her ex-husband, he's now been remarried, but she was in an abusive relationship with him. So it's kind of like a whodunit, and kind of like in the same realm as like A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, but an adult version. And I thought it was absolutely entertaining, even though she's been accused of all these things and, you know, reprimanded and all these things have happened to her. She's still so humorous, and she makes light of the situation, obviously, because it still hurts her, because why would she murder her best friend? But I thought this was amazing, and the format of it was quick, it was witty, it was an amazing experience reading this. The stack is massive, but yeah. Next, no, not that one. Next, I read Fourth Wing. I got it out the library, so I don't have it on me at the moment. I read for another video, so like I said, in-depth thoughts in another video, but I liked Fourth Wing. I gave this a 5-star. I loved the elements of the dragons and the college and the enemies to lovers, and all of it just made sense to me, and I was immersed. I literally was listening to the audiobook as well as reading the book, and I wasn't always doing both of them at the same time. I was like going for walks and stuff and listening to the book. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So if you've been living under a rock like I was, it follows our main female character, Violet Soaringale. Her whole life she's been prepped and primed to be a scribe, but last minute her mom decides that she needs to become a dragon rider, so she ends up going to a dragon college. But the dragon college isn't like for the faint of heart. It's literally designed to like wipe out the weak. So you have to cross a parapet before you even get there. On the day that Violet needs to cross this parapet, it starts raining and she's wearing the wrong shoes, but thankfully her sister, who is a dragon rider, helps her out and she gets over, and there's this community of people who committed treason. So all the parents were murdered and their kids are like sent to dragon rider school because obviously it could potentially wipe them out, but a lot of them have made them through and they have special markings, which leads us to Xaden, which everybody I'm sure knows about, and because so many people talk about it. But I really loved their relationship. Like it was a true like enemies to lovers, because obviously they hate each other because her mom is the general of this school. So her mom actually was part of murdering all those parents. So yeah, it was really great. Like the only thing I can say, even though it didn't mark it down for me, was that Violet had this typical character arc or female character arc where she was weak and she has this disease where her bones are brittle, and you know, she just conquered all, even though no one thought she could do it. But it's a blueprint and it works. It really does work, because I found myself, you know, feeling sorry for her and rooting for her, but at the same time, I enjoyed Xaden as well. I hated Dane, I really did, but it was just humorous, and oh my gosh, like the dragons and their sarcasm, it all just made sense, and it worked, and I really loved it. I don't care what other people say about it. It might be trivial, it might be all these things, but I absolutely loved it, and I enjoyed every single minute reading it. Then I read The Lies You Told by Harriet Tice. I was mistaken about what this book was about. Sorry, my chair's creaking. About what this book was about. I thought it would be a thriller, but it's more like a mystery, a domestic mystery even. So, and it's mostly about like housewives. So I didn't enjoy this book. I ended up giving this a 2-star. It follows our main female character, Sadie, and she has just gone through a divorce because something happened with her husband. Prior to this, she was kind of cut off by her mother because her mother made her choose between her career or having a baby, and she was already pregnant and she was going to become a barrister. So she chose obviously her kid over her mom's ultimatum. So her mom cut her off completely. And then when her mom eventually passes away, in her inheritance, Sadie and her daughter can only get their inheritance if they move back to the UK, move back into her mom's house, and send her daughter to the school that she went to. But she hated her school, like absolutely hated it, and is traumatized and scarred for life because of the experiences she had at the school. So she didn't really want that for her daughter, but ultimately that's the only choice that she has after her divorce, and her husband in the settlement didn't have much to give her. She does this, sends the girl to school, and at first her daughter's having an okay time. Her name is Robin. She's having an okay time, but then something that Sadie does kind of just pushes the mothers in the wrong direction, and the mothers start becoming really mean, really malicious, and so do the little girls. And the school, they're like 12 years old. They're super competitive academically, and Robin is naturally smart, and her syllabus was different in the US, so she had covered a lot of the work and the coursework that they were doing in the school. So she was acing things, and the other kids really didn't like that. Neither did the mothers. And it was so competitive that people, like kids, were going missing. But it was boring. It was boring. The plot twists were quite lackluster, and I didn't enjoy it. This was actually recommended to me by one of the workers at the local bookstores near me, but unfortunately she was wrong. This wasn't any good in my opinion. It was very much like just reading a book for the sake of reading a book. Nothing was really happening. But I read it in a 24-hour readathon, so yeah, it was okay. It says it was chilling by Lisa Jewell, but it wasn't chilling at all. It was quite boring. Then in my same 24-hour readathon, I listened to Lights Out by, what's her name? Nevessa Allen. I always want to say Vanessa, but it's Nevessa Allen. This was such a weird book. I gave it a 3-star because it was entertaining, but it's supposed to be like a dark comedic romance where we have 2 characters. Our female character is literally obsessed with watching like thirst traps on TikTok. All these men are quite buff and like have masks on. They do like sexy dances and stuff like that. Thirst traps. And one night after a heavy shift, because she is a trauma nurse, she comes home, has some wine, and then messages him and like wants to be his next victim, not knowing that it's actually going to come to fruition. But it was absolutely hilarious, but so far-fetched. Some of it was just not believable at all, but it had me giggling and I was laughing and I actually flew through it. So yeah, I read it, but I only read it because everybody was so shocked by the content. But I think Haunting Adeline was basically on the same level as that, but it didn't have as much plot. Lights Out didn't have as much plot as Haunting Adeline did. So that's why I ended up giving it a 3-star. Haunting Adeline, still 5-star for me. I absolutely love that book because there's a lot of depth to it, whereas this was just so surface level, so jokey, so silly. But yeah, I did have fun reading it. Then I read Metal Slinger, and I heard such good things about this book, but personally, it wasn't for me. I found like the build-up of the book was way too long, and when it got to the point, there were certain things that I feel like could have been fleshed out a bit more, and the plot twist at the end just came out of nowhere, like literally out of left field. There was no hint, no anything towards it like that would like lead you to believe that could possibly happen, and it was just too confusing. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't like it. The first, like, more than half of the book is the 2 main characters stuck on a boat trying to travel from one place to another. And it could have happened a lot faster. Like, I don't know. I didn't see the relevance of having them stuck on a boat for, like, more than 50% of the book, in my opinion, personally. I was just like, can we hurry this up? When are they gonna... Like, it didn't make sense. The pacing of the book specifically, and then that plot twist at the end. This follows 3 friends, Kai, Mesa, and Bryn, and they are from a area called Alaha. I think that's how you pronounce it. And every year, so the Alahans, I think I can call them that, they have been kind of shunned from mainland because their leader or whatever of their clan had committed treason. So they are exiled to sea. So they basically, in my mind, they live on like a rock or like a small island in the middle of the ocean. Their people are only granted, due to the treaty, are only granted 1 day a year on land to collect supplies and go to the market and whatever. So every year when this happens, the graduates from their like school, they are allowed to travel there, and they're all given a little bit of pocket money, and yeah, they are allowed to go there for a day. While they're at the market, they are explicitly told not to separate, like stay in groups of 2s, like never be by yourself. And unfortunately, Bryn is an idiot, like some of our main female characters are in fantasy books, but I guess it wouldn't exist if they all were smart. She separates because she has a fight with one of them, and she separates and she gets followed by the guard and accused of stealing, and yeah, it just all kind of goes from there. She it's confusing, it's very confusing, but it just follows along this little narration of her, because she never knew her parents, because well, she did know her parents, but she doesn't remember them. Like from the age of 7, she just ended up at this place in Alaha, and their leader saved her and they took her in. But now she's kind of been shunned because no one really knows her heritage, and it was confusing. I didn't think it was well written, in my opinion. It was boring, it was tedious, not enough happened like in the beginning of the book to kind of and it took me a while to read. So didn't love that, even though some people gave that 5 stars. I was like, really? Then I read Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I love the Harry Potter series. Honestly, I do. And I'm sure I said this in my last check-in as well, or my last wrap-up as well. I love Harry Potter. It's very nostalgic to me. I've seen the movies many times. The books were just, I don't think they're as well written as people say they are. Like the 3rd person writing just throws me out so much. The descriptions of characters are very different, which I think is normal, but for me it throws me off a little bit. So far every single book in the series has been a 4-star to me. It's not great. The movies, if you ask me, were 5 stars. Absolutely loved the movies, but the books were a little bit like, I don't know, there were certain details obviously that were taken out of the script of the novel, and I guess to make the movie more entertaining. Like there's certain things with Ron, like getting an owl. Like why didn't we get the owl in the movie? That would have been so cute. Little pig, like that's what he named his owl. I thought that was absolutely great, but yet they didn't do that in the movie. I would have loved to see that. But yeah, there's just a few things like Winky as well. The thing that happens with Winky, like we didn't get to see that. So yeah, the books are great, but I don't know, I just feel a little disconnect, but it's still nostalgic for me. After that, I read Daisy Hates, and this is, I guess, where my slump started. But yeah, I picked up Daisy Hates to do a rereading video, and I ended up tabbing it so much. This by Jessa Hastings. I'm sure everybody knows about the Magnolia Parks universe, but this is my 2nd time reading it. The first time round I gave it a 3 or 3.5, and this time I gave it a 4. I really did enjoy it so much more. I think before I was just on Magnolia's side, and I was like, Magnolia, like how can Daisy be such a whiny bee about all this? Like I didn't understand where she was coming from. But now going into it after having read Daisy Hates like maybe a year ago, I want to say, I saw this in a new light and I absolutely enjoyed it, and I feel like Daisy's feelings are warranted. I did skip the little key at the bottom over here. I skipped all of that and it made my experience so much better. So happy I got to reread this. Then I read Quicksilver. I liked it. I really did like it. I gave it a 4-star. I thought it was great, but I listened to it only on audio. But I'm not gonna lie, it feels like years ago that I read it and I can't fully remember all the characters' names. I do know that we have our main female character who again comes from a land where like it's desolated. There's Earth is going through it. It's like basically post-apocalyptic, where food is rationed, water is rationed. Her mom died because she supported rebels or something like that, and she is stealing, and she gets caught stealing. So they kind of want to execute her, and when they go through this, she pulls out a sword that's been stuck in the ground for many, many years, pulls the sword out, Quicksilver starts to come out, and a guy steps out, and she then steps into, or he rescues her and takes her to the realm where the fairies are from. And she always was told that fairies are bad, fairies are evil, and all this stuff. Found out that she can control Quicksilver, and it all goes from there. So that's all I kind of remember from it, but I remember really absolutely loving the audiobook. I thought it was really good. The descriptions, they are vampires, they are fairies, they are mythical creatures, and I love books like that. So I thought it was absolutely great. The blueprint of the story is not original, but I did still enjoy my time listening to it because I didn't read it physically. Then unfortunately another reread I tried because I thought maybe I wasn't in the right headspace when I originally read this, but it turns out it's just a very boring book in my opinion. I ended up giving this a 2.5 star, and previously it was a 3. I think it would even be a 2 if I'm really being honest with myself, but I ended up switching over from reading it physically to the audiobook just because I couldn't do it. I was like hating my life every time I had to pick the book up. So it's just very mundane, and unfortunately that's not for me. I already have a very mundane life, so I don't need to read about someone else's mundane life and grief and breakups and all of that. We all go through it. I've been there, done that, and I don't like to read about it. I read for escapism, but yeah, this isn't an escape from anything. If anything, it's just perpetuating what's really going on in the world. So it follows Harriet, who has a group of friends that they've been close with since college, and unfortunately her and her fiance have broken up, and they're going to her friend's holiday home for the last time because the house is being sold. And when her and her fiance broke up, they decided that they would evenly distribute their times between their friends so that they didn't cross over. But unfortunately, because the house is being sold, they kind of have to fake date and pretend that they still like each other, but they're just going back and forth about why they broke up and what happened and who's happy, who's not happy. And I was like, personally, just no. But yeah, that's just my opinion. And I think if all Emily Henry books are in that realm of writing, unfortunately, not for me. Because today is such a big filming day, I've literally just burned through 2 camera batteries, so I might have to do this in 2 parts. So I hope you guys don't mind, and things might look a little bit differently if this ends, but I only have 2 batteries and I've just filmed a full makeup video, and this video has already been 25 minutes, so yeah, please bear with me. So next I listened to Iron Flame and Onyx Storm. Because they're both sequels, I don't want to tell you too much about them, but yeah, I gave both of them a 4.5 and I listened to both of them on audiobook. I didn't have the physical book. Iron Flame, a lot of people said it was boring and, you know, the politics and not much romance, but that is my preferred way of reading things. I don't like too much romance. I like it being a subplot and not the main plot. So I really loved Iron Flame. I thought it was great. We got to know a few of the characters a little bit better, especially the side characters. There's still a lot that happens, especially that ending. Like, yeah, it was worth a read for me. And the same with Onyx Storm. A lot of people were disappointed and confused in the beginning. There are a couple of names and events that happen, I would say, between Iron Flame and Onyx Storm. Like in that interim, there were a couple of things that happened that we weren't made privy to. So I think even myself, I was confused with some of the names because of the crossover of like regions and stuff like that. So I think that's where the confusion came from. But if you just carried on, you'd understand what happened and who those people were. So I absolutely loved it. I really want to get the physical books, but because they only recently came out, they're still pretty expensive. So I'm going to wait until there's a bigger sale and I can get them. And I definitely want to do a reread so I can physically read it. Then the DNF that I had, I don't think I just told you that we moved into March. That was dumb. So Iron Flame and Onyx Storm I actually read in March, so I'm sorry about that. So for March, where are my pages? Yeah, for March, sorry, I literally just slipped my mind because I was just trying to get through this so I can conserve my battery. But for March I read 2,592 pages and I only read 7 books. But in February as well, I forgot to mention that I ended up DNFing One Dark Window after my reread. I DNF'd it at about 200 pages. I think the writing is clunky and very juvenile. I don't know if they're in the US or if they're in the UK because the language kind of crosses over. So like for me, the sentence structures don't flow, and I think that is why I didn't originally like it. So if you don't know, this is about our Elspeth who comes from a place called Blunder, and they are plagued with this mist, and the mist basically spreads a plague. If you're infected with it, you get like this weird dark magic, and unfortunately it leads to degradation. So the king kind of just kills all of them off. Their magic works by like tarot cards as well, and in order to break this curse they need to get all the tarot cards together, but one tarot card has been missing for many years and no one's been able to access it. Elspeth has this nightmare in her head because of her fever, and he talks to her, and it's really annoying in my opinion, but she can see tarot cards, but like not like see them physically, obviously she's not blind, but they have like a certain aura around them, and she can see them amongst the dark or clouds or mist or anything like that. So they've recruited her to help get all these cards together to try and lift the curse. But the concept sounded so interesting, but the writing was too clunky for my opinion. Okay, my battery's just flashed red. We still have a big stack here, so I'm gonna charge my battery for about an hour and then we'll get back to it. So my battery's charged up a little bit, only to halfway, so hopefully we can finish this little mini stack before it runs out again. Then I read Restore Me, which will be in an upcoming video, trying to complete series I'm in the middle of. I love this series. I really love this series. I gave this a 4-star, which is lower than the rest of the series because this one was a little bit slow moving. I'm not gonna lie. It focused more on like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's obviously the 4th book in the series, so I can't divulge too much about it, but it's kind of just Juliet trying to figure things out, as well as Kenji trying to figure his own shit out, and Warner trying to figure his shit out, and then an assassination attempt as well, but it just didn't give me the same spark that the rest of the series did, but I still love it. I love Juliet, I love Kenji, they feel like my friends, so I'm supporting them. That's why I still rate this quite highly, and I love the series. I can't wait to complete it. I have about 2 novellas and 2 full books to read, so I'm almost done the series. It's quite an extensive one, but they are so easy to read, so digestible. I love them, and I love dystopian, as we all know. After that, we read All In by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and this is the 3rd book in the Natural series. I did like this one. Again, I gave it a 4-star. All the books in the series, besides the first one, have gotten 4 stars. The first one was a 4.5. Again, love these. This actually pulled me out of a slump. These two books specifically, they pulled me out of the slump, especially the reading slump that I was in. And this is like every true junkie's like best case scenario. It follows true crime, and I mean it's fictional, but it's like true crime and following active cases and investigations and profiling and all of that. And if you didn't know, it follows 5 teens who have been recruited by the FBI in this special wing to work on their skills of profiling and whatever, but they are really like above the normal, like even above the FBI's capabilities. They have like the best, like, and it's all natural instincts. They haven't learned it. So one of them, 3 of them are profilers. One is very good at statistics. The other one's basically a lie detector. And somehow all these cases somehow relate to the kids in the story. And yeah, it's really interesting. I love it. It's very entertaining. Again, so easy to digest and such a quick read. Then I finished the ACOTAR series finally, and as a whole the series is a 6-star for me. Absolutely understand why everybody is obsessed with this series, because I am too. I was scared going into this. Firstly, it's a tome, and secondly, it's from Nesta's side of things, and I've heard a lot of people dislike it. A lot of people DNF'd it because it does have a little bit more smut in it, but it's tasteful smut. I liked it. I really liked it. And I loved Nesta's point of view, her character growth, the found family, because she has like her own little group of friends because she's like basically pushed her actual family away, and she's dealing with a lot of trauma and trying to just adjust to her new life, and she's not doing very well. But once they have like an intervention with her and force her into the House of Winds, and she has to navigate this, and she's stubborn, she's spiteful, but there's all a reason behind it. And when she comes to the realization after going through a lot of trials, it's great. It's an amazing book. I love it. I love it. I eat, sleep, breathe everything ACOTAR. So I do have the Throne of Glass series coming up next, but I kind of want to give myself some time just to fully get over the loss of having read this first book. There's rumors that there's another book coming out, but nothing has been confirmed, so I don't believe it. I'll only believe it when I see it. But for now, I finished the series and I'm really, really, really happy and in love with this series. The next book I actually soft DNF'd in my 24-hour readathon, and then I ended up finishing it, but I should have just left it at a DNF, to be honest with you. This is The Cloisters by Katie Hayes. I ended up giving this a 2-star. So this is supposed to be dark academia. It's about divination and tarot cards, and divination is kind of like back in the day they used to do fortune telling and stuff like that, and you can tell by dreams and the stars and all of that, and then it connects with tarot. But it's also about like art and art history, because tarot cards back in the day were all hand painted, and that's how it falls in. But this was so heavily focused on academia. I felt like we didn't get to know our characters too well. So it follows Annie. Her name's Annie, right? Anne. I thought it was Annie. She follows Anne, and she doesn't come from a very wealthy family. Her dad was a janitor. Her mom is like part of the administration at a university. So she finishes university at the university her mom works at, and she moves away. But her father sadly passed away, and she's just trying to make it in the world. So she wants to go into art history, and she goes to a summer program at the Met, but unfortunately there's been a mistake and there's no longer a place for her. So she ends up at the Cloisters. But all of this is actually like predestined because of tarot cards and fortune and all of this. So her newest project is to collect these old and misplaced tarot cards, and they do like this whole investigation and research, and they're just focusing on it. They have these nights where they do divination, and they take like belladonna to like kind of put themselves in a trance, and it all sounds interesting, but the amount of academia in here made me just lose track of what was actually going on. And then when it switches to actually our points of views, it just felt so surface level, and I just felt like the book could have done with some serious editing and a little bit of like a direction, whereas it felt like the author was just showing off about how much she knew about art and art history. So I didn't enjoy that one bit. But I mean, if you're into that, I think you might enjoy it, but for me it was horrible. But this cover, I keep saying it is gorgeous. Then we only have 2 books left, and I still have 2 bars on my battery, so that's good. So just recently, actually, for a little challenge I did, I picked up Find Me by Tahira Murphy. It's not even Find Me, it's called Shadow Me. So I read the first novella in here, which is the one after Restore Me. I really liked it. It was Kenji's point of view, but it was more like, again, surface level. It didn't get into too much depth. Like, Kenji's currently obsessed and in love with this one girl, and it's kind of just his feelings about that, and then also his feelings for Juliet. But for Juliet, it's like his sister, and it's just him trying to navigate what is going on in his life. Gave it a 3-star. Then I read The Influencer by Adrian Lee. This was really good. It was a thriller. I gave it, it didn't say, I gave this a 3-star. I don't know if I said that, but The Influencer, I gave a 3-star as well. It's that the concept of it was really cool, and I really enjoyed my time reading it up until like the last 20% when the plot twist happened. It unfortunately was too far-fetched, too taboo, and I guess it's because it's a book series, they try to make it more believable, but it really wasn't. I didn't like the direction it went in. So it follows Shay, who is an influencer, but she's one of those influencers who never really shows her faces. It's always like product placement and little reviews like on the screen, but she never shows her face because she doesn't think that her face matches the lifestyle she wants. So she's got like this whole page about like luxury brands, luxury clothes, luxury places, and she actually doesn't live that life. It is all a persona. She'll go to like a store, try things on, or purchase them and then return them. Her husband is a realtor, so she'll take pictures in like all these places. But when he asks for a divorce, her whole life changes, and now how is she going to put up this front if she doesn't have him funding things anymore, firstly, and not having his like real estate business? So she kind of loses the plot, and she starts stalking him and his new missus because she's pregnant, and yeah, it it's mental. It's mental. It was crazy, and I could see it, something like that happening, but the ending, that was my issue. Yeah, it wasn't great, but the rest of the book was very enticing. I just wanted to keep reading until we got to that point. Lastly, this is going to be in an upcoming video as well, and I don't want to say too much about it, but this is The Drift by CJ Tuador. I loved it. It's post-apocalyptic, kind of like during pandemic type of thriller slash horror, because there's a lot of gore in this, and it follows 3 timelines: one in a bus accident or crash, one in a cable car that's stuck in the middle of the mountains, and then the third one is an isolated chalet with friends in it, and in each of these scenarios someone turns out dead and there's a killer amongst them. So they kind of trying to navigate to find out what is going on, but as confused as the characters are, you are as well. You're not like led to believe anything that isn't already happening or that the characters themselves don't know. So it was one of those where you just keep wanting to read because you want to know what the hell is going on, and it kept me enticed the whole way through, and I ended up giving it a 4-star. But yeah, I think that you will get my full review obviously if you watch my video. But that brings us to the end of today's video. I'm just going to place this behind me so you can see our stack. Look at that. That's amazing. That's so many books, and then all the audiobooks I read and the Kindle books. Like it was a good month. So how much is that? 18 plus 1 DNF, so 19 books in the last 2 months. That is amazing. I'm so proud of myself. But yeah, I'm not sure how many videos I'll have after this. Like I said, I am trying to pre-film a lot, but I am obviously getting married and then going on honeymoon, so that will probably be like 3 weeks that I'll be out of business. I'm currently finishing a reading vlog, so I'm hoping to get that done, and then I have one sit down video planned, but I don't know when I'll be able to film that. But that is everything, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know if there's any of these books that you've read, and also what you think of my opinion, especially with Emily Henry and all these well-known books. But yeah, let me know your opinion, what you liked, what you read, and what you plan to read in April. I would love to find that out. But yeah, that's everything for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in my next one. Bye, guys.